The moderator is Maya Al-Hawari. She is a Director of Planning and Chairman of Board of Governors at the Dubai Carmel School. She will be running the conversation on challenging the status quo of women in leadership, just moving into the breaking stereotypes even more. So while you come up here, Maya, what I will do is I will read something from her bio, because I don't know how you managed to sleep. Okay, Maya is not only the chairwoman of the board of directors at the Dubai Carmel School, she is the first PhD scholar to research emotional intelligence and its effect on leadership. She has trained and worked in various soft skills trainings in the UAE, around all 7 Emirates. She was given the title of Ambassador of Knowledge for the UAE Red Crescent twice, in 2017, 2018. And she has been, she was given the noble title Tolerance Knight, with a K, Knight, right? Fantastic, under His Highness Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Hamad Al Nuaimi. Wow, this is why I don't know how she keeps up this powerful career. So over to you, Maya.
So, all right. Assalamu alaikum, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I'd like to thank Susan for this amazing introduction to our panel discussion. In fact, a little bit of what we're going to be talking about. We will be, in this panel discussion, challenging the status quo of women leadership. In this 2020 Arab Women in Leadership and Business Summit, it is committed to discussing barriers currently faced by female leaders and future leaders. In this summit, we aim to gain deeper understandings of skills and qualities and attributes needed to be a successful leader, especially for females. We'll be today discussing with our panel discussion, inshallah, with some beautiful women, very authentic, very ambitious, very much of achieving women, inspiring women that have been so generous and very honest to be able to be with us this morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our lovely ladies. First, Miss Eliza Iqbal Haider. Miss Eliza is a Chief Legal and Compliance Office at Fine Hygienic Holding, Dubai. Eliza is a lawyer and human rights activist from Pakistan. She was elected to be Pakistan's National Assembly on special seat for women. During her 10 years, she dedicated herself to legislating for the rights of women, children, religious minorities. Eliza has worked extensively for rehabilitations of victims of domestic violence and rape, campaigned against honor killing, and spearheaded initiatives for release of bonded labor. So please give her a round of applause. Thank you so much, Ms. Eliza. Dr. Beatrix Henkel, Leadership Training Lead, is an inspiring and dedicated leadership and neuro-language coach. She has been in the field of international education since 2003. Currently, she is a leadership training lead in the Ministry of Education and involved in mentoring and coaching education professionals on how to introduce and manage change while empowering their team members. As a coach, her mission is to enable mid-career professionals, especially women, to identify their life purpose and take powerful steps in full synergy with who they really are. Her life purpose is, I am powerful, change who transforms you. Please give her a big round of applause. Thank you. Next is Miss Despo Michaelides. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. Chief HR and Diversity Officer at AXA Gulf Despo. Can you say that for me? Yes, Michaelites. ex-Michael Leeds, is a diverse, seasoned HR professional with over 20 years of global experience in HR and legal, covering both regional and country leadership roles. She is a highly skilled executive in proven strategy, business transformation, mergers and acquisitions, and change management experience. She has held various multifaceted roles during her career in multicultural complex matrix environments. Her high profile in industries such as telecom, legal expenses, insurance, medical assistance and services, and ITC sectors. She was in 2018 awarded the Top 100 Global Human Resources Minds from the World HRD Congress. Please give her a round of applause. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Next is Dr. Zaina Ghussoub Al-Aswad. Dr. Zaina Ghussoub Al-Aswad is a professionally certified executive and wellness coach. Dr. Al-Aswad has over 13 years of coaching experience and over 10 years of using emotional intelligence, wellness, and self-leadership as her staple approach to individual and group clients. Dr. Al-Aswad practices in Lebanon, in the United States, with clients spanning from 5 different continents. She is currently the president of the International Coaching Federation in Lebanon chapter. Her practice in Lebanon is through her healthcare center, Via Sen. She is also partner and chief wellness officer of her US-based coaching company, Vital Signs, Vital Skills. Please give her a round of applause. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Ms. Reem Al-Houni. Ms. Reem has 20 years in media, including working with TV stations like the BBC, National Geographic, and Discovery Channel to be an executive producer and head of events at Dubai One. Reem launched her own production company, TI-22 Films, in 2011. TI-22 Films has won 25 New York Festival Awards and a Cannes Corporate Media and a TV Award, working with clients like DAFSA, Enoch, DCAA, EGA, and lifestyle brands like Reebok, Gulf Marketing Group, LG, and more. Reem serves on the jury of the New York Festival and is a speaker, media consultant, and video strategist. She can hear her share, and you can hear her share from more about her talk tomorrow. She's actually going to be on stage at 12 noon. Don't miss it. Please give her the same round of applause. Thank you. We had to give everybody their worth share of weight, because the level of achievement, I know from personal experience, it takes a lot of time and hard work and dedication to become the women you are today. So it's a pleasure having you all. So let's go ahead and start with our questions. Now, we know that women around the world are, although we use 80% of everything and spending and marketing and all the lovely things, yet we are still struggling to prove ourselves as women. We ask for equality, yet we also want to make room for our men in the family and in our culture. And we strive to make that aware, make all the men aware, literally, and I speak from personal experience, that we actually have a vision. It's more about what we feel and think. So, Miss Eliza, I'll start with you. Yes. So the biggest challenge facing women in the world today is patriarchy. This is especially evident in the realm of politics around the world. Regardless of a woman's experience, education, or abilities, the patriarchal nature of many societies fosters the perception that women are less qualified and less competent than men. What are your perceptions and perhaps some resolutions from your point of view?
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me say I am honored to be among so many amazing women, and I am a bit nervous right now because it's your energy, Susan, your amazing speech. It still got me high. Thank you so much. Patriarchy can mean many different things in different cultures, but what very consistently it is a form of bullying, a form of intimidation? Isn't that what it is aimed to do, to intimidate us women? The only difference between a schoolyard bully and patriarchy is that it's built into our society. It's built in as a system. We're born into it, and then we're expected to accept it. But as progressive women, as all champions in this room, as all leaders in this room, as strong women here, what do we do? How do we deal with bullying? How do we deal with intimidation? How do we deal with patriarchy? Well, exactly the same way as you would deal with any schoolyard bully. You look him in the face. You shout back. You raise your voice. You show them you're not intimidated. And you garner support. That's how you deal with a schoolyard bully, and that's exactly how you would deal with patriarchy in any society. You do not back down. You show them you're not intimidated, and like any bully, the element of bullying is based in cowardice, and patriarchy is no different. When you hold your ground, when you show your worth, that is when you force people to accept you as you are, as a woman and as a strong woman, and that's where patriarchy weakens. Now, it is so important. Yes, we talk about the strength of men in society, but let's not underestimate the strength of women. In the work that I've done, say, with rape victims or victims of domestic violence, one thing that I've seen consistently is how much of an influence other women can be to give strength to a victim. And that first source of strength has mostly been women. So when I say let's garner support, I mean let's us as women stand with women. And it takes generations and generations worth of struggle and resistance and resilience to pave the way for our girls and our future generations and women ahead to face less and less of this patriarchy. But your title, Empowered Women, Empower Women, could not be truer. It really resonates with me because I see in different cultures how victims, once weakened, are fed support by other women, and that's what helps them break the taboos and go out there and demand respect and space for themselves. And living in a country like UAE, I would say as a woman feel very, very privileged and entitled to be in a culture and in a society which inherently has respect and protection for women as a core value. So I would say all the more for the women in this room, you're in a situation where somebody crosses that red line, treats you in a way which should not be acceptable, and it comes from a place of patriarchy, it comes from a place of male dominance and male self-entitlement. Set your boundaries and make sure nobody crosses them. You have the support of the system here. You have the support of society here more than many other societies and systems that I can think of. I really, as a single mother living in the UAE, I feel the protection. I feel the support. I feel the respect that there is in this culture towards me. And it gives me all the more strength to put my foot down. And if I'm treated badly, and when I am, and there are all the women in this room can think of at least one incident when they've been treated by a man where they feel that they shouldn't have been. You put your foot down. You draw the line. You claim your space. You're not taking your right from them. You have that right. You are only enforcing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was enlightening. I appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Beatrix. Something I've seen over and over in my own career is that women in power bring a different perspective, an essential perspective. We made great strides here in the UAE, for instance, with an unprecedented number of women running in leadership positions under the guidance and support of our leadership. Do you think we have a long way to go for other women around the world? And how do you see that being improved?
Is it? Yes, now it's working. All right, so thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for coordinating the panel, and being on this panel, it feels really empowering to share a space and a platform for discussion for ladies who inspire others. And I would like to structure my answer highlighting 3 different areas. Apart from being a linguist, I also have a background in history. And if we look at history, and some of the previous speakers did already, then we can see it from the Greek mythology, starting from Ovid, where there is a myth about Philomela, who is raped by basically her brother-in-law. And she's asked to keep it a secret. And what really strikes me about this story that she strongly perseveres. She resists. She doesn't want to keep it as a secret. But then what happens is that even though her sister and herself, they both rebel, her tongue is cut out, so she cannot speak. What she does weave it into a carpet. And that story, when I read about it in the book Women of Power, really stayed with me, because it just really explains, if you look back at history, how it goes on and on for centuries. So when I think of patriarchy, I could relate a lot to what you are saying, but I could also see how it is the given. Now, if you close your eyes, imagine for yourself a leader, automatically a masculine figure will come up. And just raise your hand if not, if that's not the case. And that's a very, very old, ancient archetype that we are all having. We don't realize it, but it is there. And when we start exploring it, then we'll get to know more about it, and we'll have the power to shift and change. Now, what's also interesting about this review in history is that if you go on in the centuries, you will always find a woman standing out. Now look at Queen Elizabeth in England, right? She would be one of the first maybe examples that would come up for you, but even when she's introducing herself in her age, she would say that, yes, I have the feminine features, but I also have a belly of a king. So she would compare herself with something as masculine, something that the king has. And that comparison goes on for another couple of centuries. And then if we just name a couple with Jeanne d'Arc and with Queen Victoria, and then going on with Margaret Thatcher and having those politicians who we have right now, and many, many of them, they don't compare as much right now. They believe that their being is enough. And by their being, they bring in something that is much more powerful than it was known before. So that's really fascinating. And that's what really fascinates me about women empowerment. And this historical overview was really a good way, I think, to introduce the second part, which is about zooming in to one single country, having 50 years of history, established on the 2nd of December 1971, the United Arab Emirates, right? This is a country that has gone a long way. We could see the airport, the change in the airport and the infrastructure in the previous talk. But what is more amazing than all the fancy things that you can see, which is, it deserves all the respect. But what is amazing, the individual, the personal side of change. And this is what fascinates me. And this is the point where I would really like to appreciate, acknowledge my dear friends, Ms. Sheikha Azza Noemi, who came all the way here just to support me, so I feel less anxious about being on this panel, but who also showed me something really important. And that's something I can link with how I perceive the Emirates. For me, it's about values, about personalizing what their values are, and about how they are visioning the future. So about the values, I would say welcoming. So when I landed in this country, was assigned to the school where I was a head of departments a few years ago, then, you know, it was very much out there in mass food, and people were just like, oh my gosh, that's the end of the world where you're going. And it might really be to those people who live all their expat life in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And then I meet somebody who welcomes me to stay with them in their house. Now, if you think about it, and regardless which part of the world you are from, what is any better way of showing what values this culture communicates than real life examples? If you go to Europe, if you go to the US, you won't have this. You won't have this. There would be questions, there would be a little bit of research, but here, trust comes first. And that's very, very important, one of the values. So when I say welcoming, I also mean welcoming not only me, but welcoming all those people from India, the Philippines, from all over the world to a country where they feel acknowledged, where they feel secure, safe, as single mom, as divorced parents, as young parents, as just ambitious individuals. Creating that safety is another power that Emiratis have. And I would say that the third one that really stands out for me is their generosity. And it comes naturally. No efforts here, and they don't try hard for this. It comes natural. So whoever comes to this country and they get to know a few Emiratis, they will know that it's offered for them. A friendship is offered for them. A connection is offered. Trust is offered, and it's a given. Nothing in return. It's a given. So about values. And what I love, because I'm a very, very visionary person, I love visions. I really love. And what I love about this country, that it's living the vision. And the 50 years would be impossible without people working on it. And by people, I don't only mean Emiratis, all those people who helped to build this country and are still helping to build this country. Now, this requires vision. And as Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum last year in his talk to the government employees said that yes, there is a vision, but this vision has also the capacity to change, because a vision going on the way to the vision might just open up new horizons. And with those new horizons, the vision itself might change. But what is not changing here is the people's readiness, the trust they have in their leaders and the trust they have in the people to work together, having the we and moving forward. So answering that part of your question about the other parts of the world, I would say yes, there is a lot to catch up for them, specifically when it comes to humble leadership that cannot be seen, that is not here on the stage, that is something that you just very silently and feeling humbled, you just observe and witness.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it. Very well said. I'm proud. When I'm listening, I was like, I'm growing. I'm like flourishing even more. That's good. Thank you so much. So, Miss Despo, I was often humbled by women in conflict or crisis situations who, when asked about their needs, wanted nothing for themselves but asked that we educate their daughters. Education, these mothers believed, would provide their daughters the opportunities for the future because simply they were denied as females. So they were denied education because they were only females. How do you think the fourth industrial revolution that we live in today will help in improving this issue for women around the world?
You might want to use this. This is the working one.
Can everyone hear me? Great. Thank you, Maya. And thank you, fellow panelists. And good afternoon, everyone. It was quite a difficult question because I looked at it from various angles. Clearly, the world is changing at such a rapid pace, and the fourth industrial revolution is upon us. The Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, the fear that people have that their jobs are going to be replaced. But I go back to when I was a little girl growing up in South Africa. My parents are Greek. They come from Cyprus. And I remember one thing that stood out for me, and that was my father said to me, when you finish school, make sure that you go and study further, because having an education is power. But not everybody is in that fortunate position where they can go and study. So we have a responsibility in this room, society has a responsibility, governments have a responsibility, and so do companies, to help drive not only the fourth industrial revolution, but how women and men and people will work together. Because otherwise we will have civil unrest in this world as jobs get automated. So I want to just put that out there, which is of key critical importance. You have to have the self-belief and want to be educated is the first thing. The second thing is, yes, it will definitely impact. And how do we actually get women into these positions? Well, there has to be a cultural shift change and a mindset shift change. So basically you have to create a culture of STEM. So the sciences, the technology, the engineering, the maths, all of these have to be a key focus for women going forward, because these are where the career paths will be. And there's even jobs that we're not even aware of, which is a scary part. So one has to keep one's eyes open. And I believe creativity, entrepreneurship, the ability to be intuitive, empathetic, these are all qualities that women possess as well, and these are strengths. And as we are contributing to 80% of the buying power in the world and the influence in the world, we do have the power. What we need to do is leverage that power so that we educate ourselves and prepare ourselves, and also focus on those jobs that can't be automated, that are skills, our soft skills, that we do have those soft skills, and actually hone those skills. Because if you are authentic and you want to be an authentic leader and you have that ability to coach and to be intuitive, there's the psychological, the medical fields that one can go into, engineering, and it's a fact, more women get degrees than men in the world. So why aren't we out there? And I think it starts with self-belief. It's in that belief that we can do it and that we have the power to do it, and we need to drive change. And it really is a revolution. It's a revolution because you have to not only revolutionize yourself and evolve, but you've also got to convince stakeholders that you can do it. But if you do not have that self-belief, no matter how educated you become, no matter how driven you are, it will always hold you back. So for me, it's about collaborating together, and it's not about distinguishing a man from a woman. It's about saying, what is it we need to achieve? And do I have those skill sets to achieve it? If I don't, what skill sets do I need to build up now to be ready for the future and this industrial revolution? Because it is upon us. And what am I really good at now, and how can I leverage that? Because people can be entrepreneurs, use the other skills that they have, and foster change in the world. Just a quick statistic, which is very important. At the World Economic Forum in 2014, they did a gender pay gap analysis, and they found that we would only reach parity in 2095. That's 75 years from now. But guess what? It's worse than that. It is now, as of today, 2133. So we have to ask ourselves as women sitting in this room and as men, why is that? Why is it going to take 113 years? We won't be alive to see that, possibly. I don't think so. Neither would our children, and sometimes not even our grandchildren. So it will take multiple generations to get to that parity. So if we don't start now, and if we don't work at it actively, we will never reach parity. And we will never get the jobs we want. And if we don't hone our skills, so ultimately, the response is it can be done, but the responsibility rests with us in this room, with society at large, governments. I just want to say one thing. Growing up in South Africa was really a humbling experience, because I was part of a very diverse culture, but I also grew up in apartheid South Africa. So equity for me is key in everything I do. And I think if we look at it on an equitable basis and we know that we want to help society at large, we can make a difference. And working for AXA, I just have to say one thing. We've partnered with a company called LEAD, which is a micro lending company in Egypt, where they actually help women that have businesses in the markets. And they've basically insured these women so that they can, if they get ill and they can't run their markets, they can actually be taken care of and they get a daily allowance while they're in hospital or ill, because they've got families that they take care of. So we as a responsible company believe in that as well. So this is how I believe we should take it, and the responsibility ultimately rests with everyone in this room. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very well answered. We appreciate it. Dr. Zena. Women who are caregivers for children, parents, spouses, siblings, or extended family members have 2 full-time jobs while trying to compete with men who have 1 job. And over half of us are the primary breadwinners in our households. The standard response is to persuade men to help more, to ask for help. We don't. Why? What is our explanation to that type of answer?
First of all, I want to thank everyone, and thank you, Maya, and this panel, and this summit. I'm very humbled to be here. And in preparation to this question, I'm going to tell you a small story. I was born in Ghana, and I lived the first... hello, I'd say. I lived the first part of my life in Ghana, and then I moved to England, and then I went to Lebanon, and then I married to the United States. So, and yeah. So what I noticed in all of this movement and is that women are women everywhere, and men are men everywhere. So it's the cultural diversity that we talk of. It's basically to a certain extent existent, but at the level of the family, it isn't. Now, what I've researched looking into that is that we don't want to ask for help most of the time. We want to do it all. And concurring to what Susan said, thank you, Susan, for a wonderful, really intro to this and wonderful discussion on, is that we don't consider ourselves that we are enough. So we want to strive for more. And in striving for more, we just want to do everything on our own. And if we just ask for help, this is something that will push us further in leveraging ourselves, moving in caregiving. Now, there are 3 things that we need to look at in terms of changing that culture. First of all, in educating our children, educating this equality and to close disparity is very important in teaching our children that this is of prime importance that we reach out to help. It's of prime importance that we help our children learn high emotional intelligence skills. I know, Maya, you are an expert in that.
Oh, yeah.
So learning how to empathize, learning how to have more impulse control, learning how to have more emotional self-awareness, learning how to take more decisions, and how to manage stress. one of the things that I do also, I come from a background of dietetics. Other than my human behaviorist side, I'm also a dietitian. So the wellness part, taking care of ourselves and teaching our children on how to take care of themselves is really of prime importance. Doing all of that and helping our children will create this non-cultural diversity and non-gender diversity that is existent between men and women. What is of prime importance is really helping our children and convincing our women, and some of the research that I've looked at, the women still consider the men to be the highest bread earner. And this mentality needs to change. And there's a lot of research. There's a 2017 report on that 70% of women in Egypt, Morocco, the Emirates, North Africa, and all of the MENA region still consider that they are bread earners. However, men are the highest bread earner of the family. So looking into that, it's very important to change that platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Last but not least, Ms. Reem. We constantly encounter the stereotype that women are more emotional and less decisive than men. How do you answer that? And we have about 2 minutes. Thank you. Last but not least, but trust me, take your time.
Well, what I wanted to share is that my mother is the most intelligent person I know. And she graduated first in her year in medicine. And she's a doctor. And she then got married to my father and then didn't practice medicine. So you can imagine the frustration of someone with that much knowledge and that much information. So as a result, what my mother did very well for me is I remember the key learning as a child was her repeatedly saying, the most important thing in life is to be financially independent. So I grew up with people who were, oh, I can't wait to get married, and I'm going to go, and I never had any of that. I grew up with the most important thing in life is to be financially independent. And I grew up with a mother who, if the sink broke today, she would be under the sink, fixing it, and before the plumber showed up, she would have fixed it, Anything broke in the house, she'd be sitting with the instruction manual, and it would be done. She didn't wait and rely on dad to come home or wait to rely on a male to sort out anything. She did it herself. And you could argue that that may be why I'm not married at this stage and that I followed her footsteps. But in all honesty, I think it all started at home, and it started as from being a child, which is the mentality that you can have exactly the same position, you can strive for great things and be a decision maker in your life, in your home, and in your work. And I think that's completely separate to how you may feel emotionally as an individual. So I consider myself to be one of the most decisive people you'll ever meet when it comes to business, when it comes to work, when it comes to decision making. I'm very capable of going toe-to-toe with any man in any meeting, and that's because of something that you shared earlier, which is my knowledge. So I'm a very big believer that your knowledge saves you. If you have confidence and knowledge in your expertise, then you can be as decisive as you need to be in any environment. That does not change the fact that I'm probably one of the most emotional people when it comes to my interactions and relationships with people. So I think we need to stop putting them in the same sentence. I think you can be a very decisive leader and still be very empathic and have an emotional side. And if anything, it is that emotional side that has led to some of the best decisions that I've made, because I can see both sides of the table. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the stereotype because I feel that it's true. It's a strength. It's a strength that I can make strong decisions, and it's a strength that I have an emotional side which allows me to maybe make better decisions. So that's my summary.
Thank you so much. We actually have one more question, but because of a lack of time, and I can see things popping up and saying, move it, let's do this. So I would like to let the floor for some Q&A, if you don't mind, ladies. I'm sorry about that. But by the way, it was very enlightening, I'm sure, because we talk about the real stuff. The real stuff, and this is the real deal. Thank you so much. Q&A, ladies, gentlemen. Thank you. Anybody has a question?
Can I jump in?
Please.
Allow me to jump in. My apologies, but we really are out of time.
Okay.
So I will be again a very unpopular person, but I can also smell a lot of food out there.
Yeah.
And these
Absolutely.
women and men so much.
Thank you so much.
You did such an
Thank you, ladies. I
extraordinary
appreciate
job.
it.
It was wonderful. Thank you. Is this mic? Is this on? Okay, so we go next door for lunch. Allow me to remind you to be back for 2 p.m. so that we can carry on time, inshallah, with the rest of our program. So apologies again for having to limit the Q&A here, but feel free to reach out to all these amazing panelists who've done such extraordinary things over lunch. Thank you.